Chapter 1. I woke up with a pen in my hand. Heavy silver, the kind that cost more than it needed to. Lily had given it to me 3 months ago, a gift. She had said every man who signed important documents deserved an important pen. I understood now what she had meant by important documents. The document was on the desk in front of me. Transfer of assets, comprehensive, every company, every account, every property, all of it moving into Lily's name before the wedding. She had framed it as a romantic gesture, proof of trust, the kind of thing a man did when he was certain. I had been certain. In the first life I had signed. I sat very still. The room was the same room, my home office, morning light through the window, the smell of coffee from downstairs where Lily was waiting. The pen was in my hand. The document was on the desk. And I remembered everything. What happened after I signed? The wedding date that kept moving, always a reason, always her reason, the assets already transferred, the slow withdrawal from the relationship that looked like stress and was actually an exit strategy being executed on a timeline I had not known existed. 6 months after signing, I had nothing. The companies were in her name, the accounts were in her name, the properties were in her name. She had filed a legal separation with a document trail that made me look like the problem. I had spent 3 years in legal proceedings I could not afford because everything I had owned had already been transferred before the proceedings began. Then I had died. Not dramatically, quietly, the specific way people died when 3 years of legal proceedings and financial destruction had taken everything, including the will to continue. And now I was here. The pen in my hand. The document unsigned. The universe had given me one thing, not a second life, not 3 years, just this. The morning of the signing, one decision, put the pen down or do not put the pen down. I put the pen down. Chapter 2. I sat at the desk for 11 minutes. I know because I looked at the clock when I put the pen down, and I looked at it again when Lily called up from downstairs. Ren, the coffee is getting cold. Her voice, warm, patient, the voice she used when she was performing warmth and patience. In the first life I had heard that voice as genuine. I had been fluent in her performances for 2 years and had not known I was listening to performances. I knew now. Coming. I closed the document folder, left the pen on the desk. Went downstairs. The kitchen smelled of expensive coffee. Lily was at the counter, beautiful, composed, the specific composure of someone who was expecting a signed document and a grateful husband. She looked at my hands. No folder, no document. Something moved through her face, gone quickly. I thought you were going to sign this morning. I wanted to read it again. We have been over it 3 times with the lawyers. I know I want to read it again myself. She poured the coffee, handed me a cup. Her expression was the careful version of patient. In the first life I had not noticed the careful version. I had seen patient and believed it was patient. The careful version had tells, the way the pour was slightly more deliberate than it needed to be, the way the cup was placed rather than set down. We sat at the kitchen table. She talked about the wedding plans, the venue, the guest list, the specific details that required attention. I listened, I said the right things. I was warm and present, and exactly the man she had been managing for 2 years. The difference was that I was managing her back now. She did not know this yet. After breakfast, I went back to my office, closed the door. I had 11 months before the original wedding date, 11 months in the first life between the signing and the first sign that something was wrong. I had not understood the signs then. I had 11 months now to build what I needed. I picked up my phone, called my lawyer. Not the one Lily had recommended, a different one. Chapter 3. The first thing I understood about the second time was that I could not move quickly. Quick movement created questions. Questions created conversations. Conversations with Lily were conversations where information traveled in directions I could not control. I moved slowly, deliberately, like someone who was not moving at all. Month 1, I restructured the company holding structures, not dramatically. a review process that any responsible business owner conducted periodically. My new lawyer handled it. Lily's name had never been on the company's structures. In the first life, I had been about to change that. The structures stayed as they were. Month 2, I reviewed every account, every asset, everything that Lily had known about and everything she had not known about because I had not thought to mention it. I made a list. The list became a document. The document went to Han. "You are preparing for something," Han said. "I am being responsible." She looked at me. Most people do not become this responsible before a wedding. Most people do not have as much to protect. She accepted this. She was a professional. She did not ask for more than was offered. Month 3, I began understanding Lily's network. In the first life, I had known her friends as her friends, warm, social, the people who came to dinners and gatherings and who had always been kind to me. I had not known that 3 of them were connected to her previous relationship, a man named Daniel who had appeared in documents I found 3 years into the legal proceedings. The documents had shown that the asset transfer to Lily had been structured with Daniel's guidance. He was a financial architect. He designed these things. Lily had been the implementation. I had been the project. I found Daniel in month 3, not confrontationally, through industry channels. He operated in a specific corner of financial architecture that was legal and that was used for purposes that were not always legal. I mapped his network. I documented what I could. I said nothing to Lily about Daniel. She did not know I knew about Daniel. In the first life, I had not known about Daniel until it was over. In the second life, I had known about Daniel since I put the pen down. The knowledge sat quietly in me like a key for a lock that had not yet been presented. Month 4, I met Sue again. Chapter 4. Sue had been in my life before Lily. Not romantically, adjacent. She worked in the same industry. We had been introduced at a conference 4 years ago and had stayed in loose professional contact since. The kind of contact that existed in the form of occasional messages and industry events where you found each other across the room and had good conversations. In the first life, I had met Lily 6 months after the conference where I first met Sue. Lily had arrived with the specific intensity of someone who had decided they wanted something and was moving toward it. I had been moved toward. I had not noticed the moving. Sue had never moved toward anything. She had simply been where she was and let things come to her if they were going to come. At the time, I had found this less interesting than Lily's intensity. I had been wrong. We ran into each other at an industry dinner in month 4. Tan skin, red hair, warm brown eyes that recognized me and came over with the easy greeting of someone who did not need to construct the approach. "Ren, it has been a while. 8 months, the park event." She looked at me, the same look she had always given me, direct, interested, not performing the interest. "You seem different. People keep saying that. Is it true?" "Yes." We had dinner at the same table. The conversation was easy in the specific way of 2 people who had always been able to talk to each other and had not done it enough. She asked about the company, not the valuation, the problem the company was built to solve, what progress had been made on the problem. In the first life, Lily had asked about the company the way someone asked about a vehicle. What was it worth? Where was it going? How fast? Sue asked about the problem, the thing that made the company worth having at all. I told her the real version. She listened, made 2 observations that were specific and accurate and that I had not heard before. At the end of dinner, she said, "You are engaged." "Yes." She looked at her glass. I heard Lily Chen. A pause, the specific quality of a pause that contained something unsaid. "You know her." "I know of her. We moved in adjacent circles before she moved into yours." Before she moved into mine. The precise phrasing of someone who had watched a thing happen and had chosen not to comment on it until now. "What do you know of her?" Sue looked at me for a moment, then she picked up her glass. "Nothing I can prove. Be careful with what you sign." 8 words. Be careful with what you sign. In the first life, Sue had not said this, or perhaps she had and I had not heard it, or perhaps we had not had dinner in month 4. I did not remember precisely. What I remembered was that nobody had warned me, and here was Sue, warning me. She did not know I already knew. She did not know I had come back with everything. She was simply a person who had seen something and chosen this moment to say it. That cost her something. I understood what it cost her. Thank you. She nodded, changed the subject. We talked about other things for another hour. On the way out, I thought about 8 words and what they meant about who had been paying attention and who had not. Chapter 5. Lily brought up the signing again in month 6. Not aggressively. She was never aggressive about the things she wanted. She was patient and warm, and she circled back to things at intervals that felt natural and were calculated. We were at dinner, a restaurant she had chosen, the kind that had a specific light designed to make everyone in it look better than they were. She said the lawyers had raised the question again, the asset transfer, prenuptial arrangements. She said it was just good practice. She said the lawyers recommended it. Her lawyers, she had recommended her lawyers to me in the first life too. I had used them. I had not understood they were her lawyers in the way that mattered. I have my own lawyers reviewing things. Something shifted in her expression, slight. Your own lawyers. Hands firm, you mentioned that good practice required review. I am having things reviewed. Of course, the careful version of warm, what are they saying? Standard advice, they have some questions about the structure of the transfer, nothing urgent. Nothing urgent was the most destabilizing thing I could have said. It closed the conversation without closing it. It suggested process without revealing the process. She could not push without revealing she wanted to push. She picked up her wine glass. The wedding is 4 months away. I know. These things take time to process legally. Han says 3 weeks once the review is complete. Another shift, she had expected either compliance or resistance. I was giving her neither. I was giving her process. Process was the thing she could not argue with without revealing the urgency behind the argument. In the first life I had signed because I loved her, and because she had asked in a way that made not signing feel like a statement of distrust. In the second life, I understood that the asking had been the trap, and the love had been the mechanism. We finished dinner. She was warm, present, exactly the woman I had fallen in love with in the first life. The warmth was real. I had never doubted that. What I had not understood was that warmth and honesty were separate things, and she had been generous with one and absent with the other. I drove home thinking about Sue's 8 words. Be careful with what you sign. I was being careful. Chapter 6. Month 7, I found the link between Daniel and Lily's family. Not through investigation, through a filing that was publicly accessible and that nobody had thought to look at because nobody had known to look. Daniel Park, financial architect. He had structured 3 similar asset transfers in the previous 4 years, each one involving a relationship that had ended shortly after the transfer was complete, each one resulting in significant financial loss for the person who had signed. The 3 previous cases were not criminal, they were legal. That was the elegance of it. Everything Lily and Daniel had designed was legal. The trap was made of paper and trust and a pen that cost more than it needed to. I took the filing to Han. She read it twice. She looked at me over her desk. How long have you known? Long enough. You need to decide what you want to do with this. I know what I want to do with it. Which is? Nothing yet, file it, wait. The filing was not a weapon yet, it was information. Information was only useful at the right moment. The right moment was not month 7 with the wedding still 3 months away and Lily still unaware of what I knew. The right moment was the moment she moved, when she made the specific move that the first life had taught me was coming, the wedding date cancellation, the legal filing, the moment when she stopped performing and started executing. That was the moment the filing became a weapon. I went home. Lily was on the sofa with a book, warm and domestic and entirely composed. Good day. Productive. I made tea, sat in the chair across from her. We spent the evening in the comfortable parallel of 2 people who lived together. One of us was waiting. One of us did not know the other one was waiting. Chapter 7. An industry conference in month 8. Sue was presenting a paper on market entry timing, precise, the kind of work that required having actually done the research rather than having the research done. She presented the way she did everything, directly, without performance. Coffee afterward, the same easy conversation. She asked about the company again, the problem worth solving. I told her about the progress in month 8. It was significant. The quarter had been the best in the company's history. She said, "You have been building differently this year." Different how? Faster, like you stopped waiting for permission. Stopped waiting for permission. In the first life, I had been waiting for Lily's approval on every significant decision, not explicitly. The approval had been embedded in the relationship. Her opinion had mattered more than it should have. The building had been slower because of it. The wedding is in 2 months. She looked at her cup. Are you happy? Not the social version. I thought about the question honestly. Happy was not the right word for what I was. I was precise. I was prepared. I was building toward a moment with full knowledge of what was coming. I am clear. She looked at me, the warm brown eyes with full attention. Clear is different from happy. Yes. Is clear enough? It was enough for now. Happy required something that was not yet available. Happy required the thing to be finished. It was not finished yet. For now. She nodded, looked at the table. The 8 words. I heard them. Good. She picked up her cup. When it is finished, if you want company, I am not difficult to find. Not an offer, not a declaration, a statement of availability, the most honest thing anyone had said to me in 8 months. I know where to find you. She almost smiled, then she did. We went back to the conference. Chapter 8. Lily canceled the wedding in month 10. Not dramatically, a conversation. She said she had been thinking. She said she was not sure the timing was right. She said she cared about me deeply, but she needed more time. In the first life, this conversation had arrived like a wall I had not seen coming. I had been shocked. I had argued. I had asked questions that she had answered smoothly and that I had believed because I had not yet understood the structure of what was happening. In the second life, I sat across from her at the kitchen table and listened and said very little. When she finished, I said, "All right." She looked at me. All right. She had expected something else. Argument, hurt, the emotions that made people easier to manage. I gave her nothing to manage. I think you should talk to Han about the asset review process, given the change in plans. A pause long. The asset review. The review that has been underway since month 2. Han will need to understand the new timeline in order to advise correctly. She had expected to cancel the wedding and move to the next phase. The next phase required the assets to have been transferred. The assets had not been transferred. She was moving to the next phase of a plan that had not been completed. Of course. She was very composed. I gave her that. 3 days later, Han called. She contacted me. What did she want? She wanted to know the status of the asset review. She wanted to know if any transfers had been processed. And I told her the review was ongoing and that no transfers had been processed. She asked when they would be. I told her that given the change in the relationship timeline, the review had been paused pending further instruction from you. Silence on the line for a moment. She did not take that well. No. Of course she had not. The plan required the assets to move before the relationship ended. The assets had not moved. 3 years of setup and the mechanism had failed at the execution point because I had put the pen down on the morning of the signing. What happens now? Now I file what we have with Daniel Park's name on it, not as a criminal complaint, as a formal record, with the 3 previous cases attached, in the publicly accessible filing system where anyone who looks will find it. Legal. Completely legal. It is a public interest disclosure. Everything in it is documented fact. Han filed on a Thursday. By Friday, the filing had been found by a journalist who covered financial architecture. By the following Tuesday, it had been covered by 2 publications. Daniel Park's name was in both of them. So was Lily's family name, not in the text, in the documented connections between Daniel and the 3 previous cases. The reader could draw their own conclusions. Most readers drew the correct ones. Chapter 9. Lily came to my office 2 weeks after the filing. She was composed, she was always composed, but the composure had a different quality now, the quality of someone performing composure rather than having it. She sat across from my desk. She said she wanted to explain. She said Daniel was a family friend. She said the previous cases were not what they looked like. She said she had loved me and the relationship had been real, and the asset transfer had been her family's idea, not hers, and she had been caught between what she felt and what her family expected. Some of it was true. I believed that parts of it were true. The love had been real in the specific way that things could be real and still be used as instruments. I let her finish. Then I opened my desk drawer. I took out the pen. The heavy silver one she had given me, a gift. Every man who signed important documents deserved an important pen. I put it on the desk between us. I never signed. She looked at the pen. I know. You gave me this pen so I would sign. I did not sign. The pen never did what you gave it to do. She looked at the pen for a long time. Something moved through her face that was not composure and was not calculation, something more honest than either. I am sorry. I believed her. The sorry was real, the same way the love had been real, both insufficient. I slid the pen across the desk. Take it back. It is a good pen. It should be used for something. She picked it up, stood, walked to the door, stopped. How did you know from the beginning? How did you know? Because I had already lived it. Because I had died at the end of the first version and had woken up with the pen in my hand and had put it down. Because the universe had given me one morning and I had used it correctly. I read the document carefully. She left. The pen went with her. I looked at the empty desk. The desk was clean now. No document, no pen, no weight of a future that had already happened once and was not going to happen again. Chapter 10. 3 months after the filing, the company had its best year. Not because of the filing, because of the building. 11 months of building without the weight of managing a relationship that had been an instrument. The building had been clean. The results were visible. Daniel Park's practice had contracted significantly. The publications had been thorough. The 3 previous cases were now known to the people who needed to know them. He was still operating. What he was operating was smaller. Lily's family had released a statement. It said very little. It contained an apology that was also a denial, the specific language of people who had been found out and were managing the finding out. I did not respond to the statement. There was nothing to respond to. On a Saturday in November, I was at a bookshop on the south side of the city. Not looking for anything specific, the kind of browsing that was its own purpose. Sue was at the shelf next to mine. Not by arrangement. The city was a city. People ended up in the same bookshops. She looked at the book in my hand. Any good? I have not started it. The first page looked promising. The first page is not always reliable. No, but it is what you have. She looked at the shelf, pulled out a book, handed it to me. This one, better than whatever you are holding. I looked at it, put the first book back, kept hers. We walked to the coffee station at the back of the shop, the kind that sold one type of coffee and sold it well. She ordered 2 without asking what I wanted. It was the right thing. She had been paying attention long enough to know. In the first life, I had not understood what it meant when someone knew what you wanted without asking. I had thought it was a small thing. It was not a small thing. It was the specific evidence of someone who had been genuinely paying attention. The paying attention was the whole thing. We stood at the coffee station with our cups. She said, "Is it finished?" Yes. Are you all right? Not the social version. Yes, the real version. She looked at me, the warm brown eyes with the full quality of their attention. You said when it was finished, you would find me. I found you. You found me in a bookshop. You were at the shelf next to mine. She almost smiled, then she did. Dinner? Yes. Tonight? Yes. We finished the coffee. She bought 3 books. I bought the one she had handed me. On the way out, she did not take my hand. She walked beside me at the same pace, and that was enough for now. In the first life I had been moved toward. In the second life I had found someone who walked beside me at the same pace and did not need to be anything other than what she was. The difference was not dramatic, it was everything. I reached into my coat pocket. No pen, the pen was gone. Lily had taken it. The desk was clean. A pen was a tool. Tools were for using. The document had never been signed. The pen had never done what it was given to do. It belonged back with the person who had given it. I did not need the pen anymore. I had already written everything that needed to be written. The street was honest. Cold November afternoon. The city indifferent to everything that had happened in the year behind us. Sue was beside me. That was everything. That was more than enough.